Second. All right, now.
Okay, everybody, welcome in this webinar organized by the Titan Project. The Titan Project, which is about enabling transparency in food supply chains via the implementation of innovative and mainly digital technologies to boost health, sustainability, and safety of products, processes, and diets. We have put together for you a very exciting program today. We are really proud of our two speakers. First, we will have a presentation by Francois Capel from Lausanne, Switzerland, and he will give a presentation about which key factors to take into account when you would like to consider to innovate when you have a researcher background. And the second presentation is by Adam Adamek, working for EIT Food in Leuven, Belgium, and he will, let's say, shed the first light on how they make their innovation impact report. Which are the criteria? How do they calculate impact? And the aim is to create benefits with a focus on climate change and healthcare cost mitigation. It's very exciting. It is not finished, so he will give some flavor of what they are doing. I recently attended a presentation of the European Innovation Council, and they also calculate their impact, and that makes sense because they're investing in startups. So I told them that EIT Food had a great system, so now we are looking forward to hear what they have developed. So the setup of these webinars is always the same. I give a short introduction about the Titan project. Then we have the two presenters. Then we have a short Q&A session, and we split up in two groups. One will have discussions with Francois, and Isabel will join to lead the discussion. And the second subgroup will be led by myself, and that's about the criteria for impact in a healthy and sustainable food system. In the Titan project, we have 4 key expertise areas. One is to enable consumers to make informed food choices, and we have split this up in two. One is about food safety and authenticity, and another leg is about informing and educating the consumer. The second key expertise area is facilitating supply chain sustainability, and we look at environmental and social aspects like ESG reporting, but also at economic support for SMEs. How can the startups that we think that really want to improve our food system, how can they be supported? Then we have special attention for the implementation of new innovative technologies. And we in the Titan project have two, but there are more. One is to have faster and more accurate detection methods. We have several pilots in Titan that are more focused on DNA-based detection methods, but we also have an open co-pilot that's using microscopy and AI. And we have a lot of examples of the implementation of disruptive digital technologies, like blockchain, like AI, like Internet of Things, interconnectivity. And then the fourth key expertise area is taking the food system approach. And you can see this as a kind of, you could see this as a kind of a tick box. What do projects or startups need to be in line with so that they really follow the food system approach, that they help to build a more sustainable food system? So that's one aspect, how to move best towards a more sustainable food system, but also how to be successful in innovation again. And the webinar of today is about the fourth key expertise area. In Titan, we have a network of expertise. We have almost 200 members. Some of them are experts in the Titan project. Many are from outside of the Titan project. You're invited to become a member of this network, and then you will have the possibility to share information and to connect with others. In other words, you can join a vibrant community. You can stay informed about the progress in the Titan project, and you can also contribute, for instance, to policy briefs or to education material that we will be developing. You can expand your network. You will have early access to information, results, and multimedia. And, well, you can shape the future of our food system. We have a newsletter that comes out every 3 months. And in this newsletter, we give some really nice news items, some news items from partners that are active in the Titan project. We give information about events that were intended. We give information about events that are upcoming. And here you see some news items. Recently, a workshop was organized by Andrea from ILSI in Rome, from obstacle to opportunity, which was really successful as far as I've understood. This week, there's the UN Ocean Conference, and there's a side event where a partner from Titan will be participating and collaborating with some other EU projects like C2C and Fish EU Trust. And then there was a short paper published in Open Access Government about the Titan project. When you read this paper, you have a better impression of what we are focusing on. Then we have recently discussed that we would like to organize a great final event for the Titan project, which should be focusing on delivering the latest innovations in transparency and traceability. We have set a date, we have a venue that we would like to book, and you could say another title is Implementing Innovative Technologies to Build Sustainable Supply Chains for a Better Food System. What will we have in the program? We think of more than 80 oral presentations in 3 parallel sessions. We think of more than 40 poster presentations. Apart from the scientific program, we would like to have a marketplace. We think of more than 30 startups, and it would be great when EIT Food would come on board and bring in 5 or 10 of their startups. We hope to collaborate with more than 8 EU projects. For instance, FCOP and Catalyze, these 2 projects have already indicated they would like to be present and make this event into a successful one with us. And they are both developing a cumulative practice, one for food fraud and authenticity and the other one for food safety. And we will have a networking area for one-to-one meetings. And for the startups, because we have already 20 startups in the Titan project on its own, we think of maybe the most sustainable startup or the one that's best in food safety or the one that's best in traceability. This all needs to be discussed and developed. And and for the scientific program, we have, now I mentioned it, 4 tracks, but they will be in 3 parallel sessions. One is food safety and food fraud. One is informing and educating the consumer. One is building sustainable supply chains, and one is implementing innovative technologies. And you're all invited to submit your abstracts. We can see also in publications and other projects that there are many scientists and other people also in companies working on these topics. You're all invited to submit your abstract, and then hopefully we can give you the opportunity to present orally or as a poster. And again, we are thinking of 2 awards for young scientists, the best oral presentation and the best poster, for instance, but it's all open for discussion. Thursday, we'll have a meeting and then it will be final, but this is just to let you know already so that you can save the date. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do it like this. And the upcoming webinar for the 8th of July, we have invited 2 EU projects, Fish EU Trust and C2C. With them, we are organizing this special session at the UN Ocean Conference, and they will explain what they are doing. And also in Titan, we have quite of a passion for the seafood sector. So I think this would be really nice. That's it from my side. I'll stop sharing, and I'm really happy to give the floor to Francois, and I'm looking forward to what he has to share with us. Francois, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's start then. Welcome. Thank you very much to welcoming me. So I'm very glad to be part of this. I will try to make you understand what is innovation building on your scientific skills. So you may think, okay, sorry, can I? Sorry, just to go there. Yeah, okay. So what is innovation? So instead of going to explain you what is innovation, let's observe 3 different processes. One that you know, that is science, the scientific process. I would like to talk also about the invention process and about the innovation process, okay? So first, let's start with the scientific process. Scientific process basically goes from a problem to knowledge, okay? But that is rather the romantic way of doing science, because basically what you do is you start with a problem and you have a question to answer to, right? But basically, you set hypotheses to be able to understand and answer to that question. But when you run your experiment, basically, you fall under another problem that were not foreseen. So therefore, you need to solve that. A new hypothesis, new experiments, and therefore you have a new question. You realize that you understand better now the initial problem, and the question to answer to becomes irrelevant. Basically, why did I choose to make a PhD, right? The whole story about that is to be able to gather knowledge, to build a story and publish a paper, okay? That is the outcome, the final outcome, is to be able to build a story to bring knowledge. So basically, what is knowledge? Knowledge can be scientific publication, conference talk, posters, you know it by heart, right? It involves different things like bibliography, hypothesis, experiments, publication, basically, all in all, knowledge. That is science. What about invention? Invention goes from an idea to a solution. Again, that is rather the romantic way of inventing, because if you talk to Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, he said, I have not failed. I've found 10,000 ways that won't work. And that's it. It's about iteration. It's about building and trying to make tangible what you have in mind, okay? What is a solution? A solution could be a patent. It could be a product. It could be even not a ready product. It could be a prototype, okay? Basically, it goes from idea to prototype, you need iteration, and therefore you can have patents, okay? That is the invention process. So therefore, knowing science, knowing invention, what about innovation then? Well, innovation goes from a problem to value. What does that mean? First of all, let me explain you again the process in itself. Again, this is more rather the romantic way of innovating, because you know and you may have heard about thousands of different ways to innovate, to make innovation, like design thinking, design sprint, or lean startup, or blue ocean strategy, effectuation, parkour, that is also what is this one? It's a design, fiction design, or CK, and so on. So basically, why do we have those sorts of many different processes to do the same thing? Well, because there is no recipe for uncertainty. What do I mean by that? A recipe is what? Basically, I want to make a pizza. I have my ingredients. I know exactly how to use my oven. And if I do every time every time the same way, I will have the same result, the same output. But this is wrong for innovation, because uncertainty is always different. And therefore, we have different methods, because you will have different blind spots to answer to, right? So what is innovation? Innovation goes from problem to value. Now you may question, what is value? Value is a solution that will be adopted. And this word is King Kong. It will be adopted by users while sustaining itself through a profitable business model. What do I mean by that? So again, it involves different things like desirability, feasibility, viability, ideas, prototype. But look at that. You see idea, like for invention process. You see prototype, invention process. You see also hypothesis, test and experiments, like the scientific process, okay? Knowledge, so it combines different things that you know from scientific process and invention process. Okay, But what is value? Do we think, what about knowledge and solution? Aren't they value also? If you look at the scientific process, the output of the science is knowledge. It is value for mankind, but and through the scientific community. But the value may come if what we will do, it depends on what we will do with the knowledge we will acquire, okay? So is it really value in itself? Not really. What about invention? Value, there will be value in the solution if the patents or the solution I have in mind will be exploited, right? If not, well, it's just a dead product that will end in a corner or in somewhere on a hard drive. Basically, just know that 95% of patents ends up having no value. As an example, and this is just an example, in 1997, Japan opened a patent licensing database with about 60,000 sleeping patents. They were waiting to be valorized. So yeah, that is the reality of invention. Basically, invention doesn't produce value in itself. So what about innovation? Well, yes, innovation has the only intent to be adopted by someone, meaning the user, your customer, your clients, okay? And that is value for the user. So can you do so? And you can do so only if it can sustain itself in the long run, right? It has to be profitable. So there is this flywheel effect that basically the more people are adopting your solution, the more you will be able to produce. Basically, you have value for the business because you are profitable. So innovation, does it bring value? Yes. Don't get me wrong. These three processes are equally important for progress, okay? So innovation often causes side effects. So that's why sometimes it's not just progress in itself. You may think about, for instance, mining for lithium for batteries in poor countries. Is that really a progress for those countries? Not necessarily, right? Something that creates value for a user could deter someone else in another way. As an example, in 1789, Nicolas Leblanc finds a way to make soda crystals in only 2 steps. Producing soda crystal was critical for the development of 4 different industries like paper, textile, soap, and glass. Basically, sulfuric acid with sodium chloride is used to produce sodium sulfate, further reacting with chalk and coal to produce soda crystals. The problem is highly polluting that has because for 100 tons of soda produced, 75 tons of chloride acid was produced as gas. And that gas made acidic rain that poorly ruined factory surroundings as well as workers. You hear some testimony saying their teeth fell off, their clothes were burning, and and if they were to breathe in heavily, they could faint and vomit. So while innovation created a progress for London inhabitants with more white shirts, more paper, more nice soap and clear windows, the back countries of Liverpool was just dying, okay? So innovation is not only progress, right? So you need science, invention, and innovation, a combination of those three to be able to produce progress. Now, altogether, you have here the 3 processes, the scientific process, the invention process, and the innovation process. Basically, knowledge may be used to produce an invention, okay? So you may need the scientific process to embed it in the invention process to produce a solution that is backed up with knowledge. Okay, you may use as well an invention within your innovation process to produce value, but this is not mandatory. You may invent without science and you may innovate without inventing. Let me show you how. So here is a quiz time. So I won't take people's answers, but just for you I will help you to think basically about this process. So the question is simple. Are these outputs coming from science, invention, or innovation? So the first one is easy. DNA structure discovery. Well, obviously, this is a scientific process, right? It has been discovered by Rosalind Franklin and published by Watson and Crick in 1953. What about the microwave? The microwave is an invention. In 1946, Percy Spencer was the director of the magnetron factory for radars, and he felt some heat while he was passing by a working magnetron. And the legend mentions that the chocolate bar in his lab coat melted. So he tested this with popcorn, and yes, this was producing heat. He wanted to exploit that idea into an oven. So in 1947, they made the first microwave oven. It was measuring 1.8 meter high. It was weighing 340 kg and was sold for $3,000 but at that time it was 35,000 of our current dollars. And the first one was designed for household. Is sold in 1975, and it was targeting men. Like it was a techie product so they can own the cooking at home with a very technical communication because it was kind of neat, right? But nobody wanted it. So basically, a lot of improvement needed to happen for this invention to finally find his market, meaning being an innovation at the end. And it was commercialized only in the 80s, meaning almost 40 years after its invention. What about Uber? It's an innovation. There is no invention whatsoever. Apps was already existing. Taxi was already existing. The innovation comes just from using this in another way, okay? What about Tesla? Tesla is a bit of invention, but it's mostly innovation. So why do I say so? Because they didn't invent the electrical engine. It was existing way before Tesla, okay? But basically what they did is Tesla understood their consumers if they were to buy their product. They basically identified three types of consumers. There was first the ecologists, who thought it would have a lower CO2 footprint. Then the patriots, who wanted USA to be autonomous against the oil markets. And then the third one was the speed lovers, who wanted a reactive and fast vehicle. So they also created a new distribution channel with no middleman. They also designed a supercharger network, free for the first user and so on. So it's mostly innovation. What about Tupperware? Again, Tupperware they didn't invent the plastic bowl, right? It was existing way before, but what they invented was a radically new way of distribution, the housewives sales force. And what about Nintendo Wii? Nintendo Wii is again innovation, because basically it's a low-tech type of product. Basically, they took off-the-shelf technology. It was way too hard for them. They didn't have the means to compete with high-tech gaming consoles. So they took this as an opportunity to transform the gaming experience in something more fun and familial, targeting casual gamers. That was a new market for gaming at that time. Sorry, I heard noise. Everything is okay? Because I don't see you.
That's
Okay.
only someone coming in, so it's fine.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. And what about Google Glass? Well, Google Glass never took off. It's purely an invention. Google Glass never took off and was stopped in 2015. The main reason being because it was a technology that was born because Google could make it, not because their customer would want it. And without significant adoption, the product was just canceled. Okay, I hope you get it, basically. But what if you go from an idea to value? Is that possible? If I have are you saying that I'm not innovating, meaning not creating value, if I start with an idea? Well, what if so? Basically, if you start with an idea, well, if you want to exploit your idea, what would you do? Basically, you would do project management. You would collect requirements, understand the solution specification, set deliverables, project schedule, start building, fail maybe, start again, et voila, the solution. Basically, what did you do? You have now to pray for it to fly. You have to pray for value creation. So to sum up, if you want to innovate with your scientist eyes, you need to go back to the problem and ensure that what you have imagined, meaning your idea, addresses it. You need to build accordingly while keeping your eyes locked on the value you would be delivering. So for the user, it has to be what we say desirable. And for the business, we may say that it has to be viable. Okay. And a last thought, and is R&D and innovation department. Well, you have R for research, you have D for development. Maybe you're missing an I here, right? By design, R&D doesn't address the understanding of a problem, nor whether real value is delivered, okay? It doesn't mean that R&D could not be used, and R&D is a key tool for innovation, but R&D in itself is not innovation. Obviously, there is more. I mean, this is just a first entrance, first steps for me to explain what is innovation. Innovation is not a fun team building activity. It's not a post-it workshop. It's not an R&D department. It's not everyone's responsibility. It's not marketing's responsibility. It's not an idea contest. It's not an activity that could be measured with operational KPIs. It's not a discontinuous process. It's not a promotion role, and it's not an easy task. Basically, what is innovation is an actual set of skills to acquire. It's a high failing rate activity. It's mostly about learning, not necessarily delivering per se. It's using R&D as a tool, but not only. It should be a department as a whole, which is currently not in most of the companies that I know. It's mostly about execution. It's the result of a company's culture. So the company needs to be able to host such an activity. It's not an it's an iterative process, sorry. It's a kind of a rigorous craftsmanship, if you will. It's basically like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. So welcome on the innovation roller coaster. My main takeaway message is take care of yourself and your team because it's a hard journey. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Francois, for a really interesting presentation. I think I hope it opens the eyes of the people in the webinar about what is exactly innovation. I've seen that Adam has joined the meeting, so maybe you can share your screen, Adam.
Yes, thank you, Edward.
We are really grateful that you made the time to come here, and I can see that we have a highly interested and knowledgeable audience, so I think they're looking forward to your presentation.
Very good, very good. And please forgive me if I'm telling the things which are maybe not as interesting as innovation, because impact is, well, I would love having always impact as an outcome of innovation, whether it's value creation or it's societal impact or economical impact. But I think it's a nice bridge between these two presentations. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Adamek. I represent EIT Food. I'm here to present the findings from our Innovation Impact Report. It's not yet published, even though it's popped up several weeks ago on our website, but we still see we can make it better. Therefore, it will be improved. It's just preliminary report. So as we are going, we are learning, we are publishing what we have found out. We will be improving this as we go. First of all, I want to acknowledge upfront that the report was a collaborative effort my colleague, Rebecca, who was the methodological brain behind the analysis, couldn't be here today, but her excellent work make this report possible. Let's move to our agenda. Trying to move the slides. So in today's session, I'll provide an overview and introduction to the report. We will look at the innovation projects we funded from 2018 to 2024. We'll talk about methodology and assumptions used for the impact modeling and estimated impact and ROI of our investments, of EIT Food investments, on two metrics, carbon reduction and health benefits. So this is something in a nutshell. As a background, I want to bring two slides actually to focus ourselves on why we are here, why we are doing the world better place. First of all, we know that the current food system is a leading cause of some of the biggest social and environmental challenges the world faces. The need to feed 10 billion people by 2050, over 2 billion people currently overweight, 800 million are undernourished from the other hand, and up to 35% of children under 5 are globally affected by stunting, wasting, or overweight. We also know that 1/3 of our food is wasted globally. The food industry accounting for 70% of freshwater use. It's an enormous amount, and 26 to 30 greenhouse gas emissions. We have also entrepreneurial challenges with only not much more than 3% of EU startups in food, and 90% failing due to the lack of market need. And even though we could create 200 billion innovation opportunity by 2030, we are still behind the entire world. But even though we have the concerns, European consumers are increasingly prioritizing health, which is a good thing, transparency, which is another good thing, and functional benefits in their food choices. So as Hippocrates was saying, let food be your medicine. So that's one of the things which our population, our European consumers are increasingly understanding. So what we have known from our consumer observatory studies, 76% of consumers prioritize health when they do the food purchases. 68 worry about food additive and processing. Some of them don't know the details. Some of them shouldn't be worried, but they are worried. So we need to educate them more. 53% actively seek functional benefits. And however, diet-related diseases causes over 950,000 deaths and 70 to 80 billion in healthcare costs to treat the diseases annually in Europe. 35% of cancers could be prevented in dietary changes. And this is not only cancers, because there are many other diet-related illnesses. On the food production side, 40% of productivity gap exists between top and bottom farmers. 40% of European solids are degrading, and 88 million tons of food are lost annually, indicating major inefficiencies and sustainability issues, which is not a good picture, I would say. And now what we have to do is support the innovation, entrepreneurship, and all of the aspects of what we are doing to create the better future, improve the numbers, but not only numbers, generally improves human health, environmental status, and also the opportunities for our populations. So if we look at the something what EIT Food is actually doing, we are the biggest, probably one of the biggest investors and founder when it comes to innovation in Europe. Depending on the scope and the phase of the innovation and technical readiness level. We are probably one of the biggest. Over the period of 2018 and 2024, we have founded around 252 projects. I'm saying around because we still are doing the 2024 projects at the total cost of 84 million euro, with the average funding around 300 to 400 euro per project. And the projects were different, really, from the high-scale, sophisticated, complex programs into simple digital solutions which are solving basic problems. We are to talk about today about the impact innovation. So if we have the innovations which are impactful, and this is our first attempt to really try to measure, try to track what we are providing our consumers with, our industry with, our society with, whether it's purely just a commercial income, revenue, or it's also impact which we are making on health, on the environment, and on economical values. So this is the picture of the number of projects we have founded. The projects in innovation program database, it's over 100 because not all of them are innovation programs. Some of them are targeting education, some of them are educating special initiatives. Innovation projects which were highlighted through EIT Food initial funneling were 30, and these 30 were taken into consideration. And we were additionally adding the project as we go, because 2024, it was the year when we started to do this first attempt to the impact innovation report. Finally, we reviewed and interviewed 16 projects. Why I'm saying reviewed and interviewed, because impact is not only about quantitative data, and I'll show you in a second, but also about the qualitative understanding what's behind the data. So we were interviewing also the companies which were beneficiaries of the projects, of the funding or investment, but also we were interviewing the users of the solutions which were applied by the companies. Finally, we ended up with, somebody would tell, only 5 projects with quantifiable impact benefits included in the case studies, but we really scanned them through very, very well. So we know everything what was generated. For the rest, we are still doing the job. Therefore, the report is not yet published on the website. It will come soon. So how we're working, so how we've done it. Very quickly, we call it impact assessment, and we couldn't do it by ourselves. We have only a couple of people who are experts in the field. So we contracted Brookdale Consulting, the company based in UK, which specializes in impact assessment, various methods, various metrics. What we have done was really starting to quantify CO2 equivalent benefits. We relied on independent life cycle analysis already done by the projects, and we converted the tons of CO2 avoided into economic terms using actually UK government carbon values based on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change modeling. There are plenty of other tools we started to do with this one. We will provide you more details on other tools we are applying to get there. For health benefits, we used UK Department of Health calorie model, which assesses financial impact of calorie reduction on healthcare costs, social care, productivity, and quality adjusted life years. They both are the validated methods. We also used other scientific literature to estimate healthcare savings. So it was a thorough analysis, I would say meta-research, meta-analysis, to understand where is really the issue and how much impact we can generate. Economic impacts were calculated from project revenue. The case study results were attributed to EIT Food based on the project leads estimates ranging from 55 to 80%. And we made conservative assumptions. So really to see the persistence of benefits over time. They were not optimistic. They were really very conservative. I'm not going through all of the technical assumptions now, but they are transparently laid out in the report for each case study. I will be talking about the companies which we interviewed and reviewed. But just to mention a couple of things, we used 10 to 15 years appraisal time frame starting from the beginning of the EIT Food program, so 2018, basically. All figures are in the net present value. I'm going to this value so you can see it. Using 3.5% discount rate and 1.5% for health impacts. This is the method we're using. And CO2 prices are based on the UK Department of Energy Security, which come from the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. So we use the available data. Health savings also use the UK Department of Health calorie model or published literature, which I just mentioned before. Now, if we talk about economical impact, we wanted to really understand what would be the saving in the various spaces, whether it's health or environment. So based on the 5 innovation case studies which we have assessed, EIT Food, 84 million investment, you remember I was showing you over this time, we invested 84 million, is estimated to deliver between 52 million in benefits over 10 years, up to 726 million over 15 years. I will go to the slide which is showing that. And I'm sorry, I was doing this presentation very recently, so the numbers don't look very nicely, but you need to trust me, in the report is much better presented. This represents a return on investment ranging from 60 euro cents over 10 years to 8.60 over 15 years per €1 invested. What it means? It means that every, and why we are talking about 10, 12 or 15 years. We know from both methodology and also scientific papers that the return on investment and any other effect and impact we can make based on the food takes approximately from 10 to 15 years to have an impact on the society or environment. So we took this time perspective. 10 years is 0.6, so we don't have the return on investment. However, already in 12 years, we see very positive trend, and 15 years are bringing 8.6 euro per each euro invested. So it's 8 times more from what we have invested. 10 years ROI is relatively low, 0.6, because of the long development timelines, as I said, but also it's also correlated with the initial overestimation of the projects or programs by the companies who were receiving the investments. If we gross up the case studies to estimate a wider program impact, the total benefits of our investments, so all the impact created, rise to 1.8 billion over 15 years, which is 21 times return on investment, which is huge. It's a huge return on investment. When we checked the business creation, entrepreneurship and support we offered, we gained around 8 times more. In this case, in innovation projects, is 21. So we have to remember that innovation is the first to bring the impact. While approximately, this gives us some kind of preliminary indication of full potential of carbon and health impact on our innovation funding. We have to be very, very careful about this data. They are partially only showing us the entire picture. We need to be very careful. We are doing some other desk research to check the other projects and find out whether we see any correlation, wider correlation. We need to also find out whether other case studies bring the same likelihood of additional impactful projects, which we didn't capture. The companies which we have analyzed, there were several companies from different countries. Some of them working in the health and nutrition space, some of them on the agriculture space. But I just wanted to mention the names. So Sustain Feed is carbon neutral production of microalgae to replace fish meal and soy in aquaculture feed. So they are avoiding around 66 kilograms CO2 per kilogram. Project Salus is personalized corporate menus to reduce obesity, reaching 1 million users and saving around 400 million in costs over 15 years, which is enormous. It's probably the first digital solution which is bringing such an impact. Ulmana is AI-powered weeding for organic farming, enabling cost savings of 2,000 euro per hectare, yield gains of 20 tons per hectare, and CO2 reduction of around 800 kilograms per hectare of organic sugar beet. Fourth is under pressure, ultra high pressure food preservation to reduce energy use, avoiding CO2 per kilogram, around 200 grams per CO2 per kilogram from cold chain saving versus conventional methods. And Mimica Bump. Mimica is smart food expiry label to reduce waste with potential to cut especially beef waste by 50% and save 160 tons of CO2 in equivalent in the UK only. We have another startup because they were scale-ups. This is the startup, Gavan Fatrix, plant-based butter replacement with 92% of lower CO2 footprint and 40% fewer calories, forecast to save 125 million of CO2, as well as 25 billion calories per year. Well, to conclude these initial and very preliminary results, I would need to say that each case study outlines clearly that the innovation is needed, outcomes and estimated impacts are proving that. I encourage us to go deeper into each of our projects and look what impact can we create. We will be digging further to find more details and look at the assumptions, calculations, trying to find the best methods, and start to establishing a very thorough analysis and impact measurements. So in conclusions, while it's a very initial assessment, that's my disclosure, based on very small sample of projects, it already demonstrates that these innovation investments have strong potential to deliver first on carbon reduction and health benefits in Europe. We know that these are the biggest contributors to our future. We know that it is affecting 15 years returns on investments over eight times for the case studies directly. We will see in other case studies if this is the same, and potentially over 20 times more when extrapolating to the wider innovation program founded by EIT. Next steps. We will continue to track and report on project impact as they are realized to validate and refine these estimates over time. We are looking very deeply into the project metrics, but also deliverables, how they behave, the products on the market. So it's also follow-ups after the launch of the products. And I think this is the first attempt. I'm very grateful that I was invited to present those results, even though they are very, very preliminary, as I said, and more you will find in the report. Please do not hesitate if you have any questions. I hope I will be able to answer those questions, because as I said, my colleague is not with me today, who was the brain behind the methodology, but happy days. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Okay, Adam, thank you very much for giving a first flavor of what is going to be in the final impact report. I'm really happy that you're able to present. Yeah, both presentations are open for questions. I think we have a lot of highly intelligent people in the room, so please show yourself, open the mic, and ask a question if you have any. Yes, Isabel? Manuela, can they unmute themselves? Manuela?
Yeah, I've done it. She should be able to talk now.
So
We
Isabel, now
always
you
have
should
the
be
same
able to
problem,
unmute
so I
yourself.
don't know.
Isabel Hofman, you have a question? Faisal has a question. Let me see in the chat. What mechanisms are out there to fund innovation based on science for impact, social and environment in Europe?
Well, it's the same mechanism as for everything else. So impact funding framework, we are focusing on really on delivering impact, regardless the outcome, whether it's commercial. We always look through the lens of the impact created. Of course, it's always evidence-based, so I would say science. The technical readiness level must be quite high, so we don't fund the I would say basic research or fundamental research. We try to find out what would be the translational to commercialization and exploitation, much more than only to fund a research project. We are probably not the best innovation agency which is funding or investing in early stage projects. Social and environmental, we have plenty of projects which are not aimed at having any commercial effect. They are called social innovations. So, for example, activating elderly population, urban farming, activating people who are from unprivileged groups, societally disconnected from the population. So there are plenty of projects. I would name probably 8 to 10. So it's probably small. I would say it's probably up to 5% of all of the projects funded. However, they are increasingly growing. The number is increasingly growing. So I would expect much more in the coming months. And I encourage you guys to look at the impact funding framework and what we can do together. There is another one, Edward.
Yeah, there's a question from Harris.
Yeah.
If EIT Food funds thesis project for master students?
Actually, in the education programs, there is a program. I'm not sure if we are financing the projects which are not related to our programs, educational programs. That's why they were established. I would need to check, but I can come back with the answer.
So I know you made a very interesting remark, Adam, that you also, let's say, invest in social innovation, and that not the first target is to create value. And that's interesting when we just heard the presentation of Francois. So how should I see this? Do you then take maybe the CO2 and the health impact as the target for the innovation?
Yes, and I think we will be also looking at other metrics because, as I said, we are trying to allocate the best methodology behind that and track the impact metrics which are relevant. For social innovation, I can just mention one of the programs, which is AMPLE program, which is really activating the urban farming and elderly population. So from one hand, you have the health benefits for the people with diseases like Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease, but at the same time giving them the space to activate and get connected. From the other hand, we have something which is called urban farming. So in the big metropolitan areas, we can have small gardens, small places where the people could be very, I would say, useful to do the job around this gardening, but also it's called the occupational therapy, giving them the space to really spend time with their peers, with their neighbors, with some people who are affected by same diseases. So it's kind of societal program, which is partially financed by EIT Food, partially is financed by other institutions like banks. Banks and financial institutions are having their targets to improve the quality of life of citizens of the city. So it's not always that we need to generate the value which is kind of monetary value. It can be really bringing people, which is quality of life measure, I would say, bringing people back to the society, helping them to thrive, and probably also make them less suffering if they have a very difficult diseases. So this psychological and societal component is super important. It's very difficult to measure that, but we have the validated tools which are measuring the quality of life very well. It's still first steps. So we are still doing the first steps. Started 2023, late 2023 with ample projects with Madrid and Warsaw, now moving to other capitals like I think it's Tallinn and Riga, and some other capitals will be also considered.
Okay, thank you very much now for your answer. Now I go back to Francois. Do you agree with this? Because when I listen to you, innovations are meant to bring in money, you could say. That's the value that they create. But could they also create other types of value? Maybe you can give some feedback on this, Francois.
Well, money is a tool. Money is a tool to bring value, right? So basically what you need to have is to have a profitable business. Because it's profitable, you can bring your solution on the market. If it's not profitable, it will not sustain by itself. So see money as a tool that is necessary for you to be able to bring your solution on the market.
Yeah, but that's of course the questions of these social projects. You can expect that they never will be able to, let's say, to sustain themselves financially. They will need support on the long run.
It's not an easy one. If you live on subsides only, maybe you're not creating enough value for your business, and therefore will not be sustainable. So that's something you need to find is a way to be sustainable over time, so you can deliver your innovation on the market on a sustainable way. You need to maybe you need to invent a new business model to find how you can really be able to reproduce what you have delivered. But yeah, on the long run, you really need to have have this some money at least to be able to be sustainable over time.
Okay. I don't know. Yes, there is someone waving. Harris, could you unmute yourself?
I think he just asked whether EIT does also fund thesis and projects and masters. But there is a question by Isabel about innovations that you can find in
the Q&A. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to unmute Harris. Just 1 second, please.
Harris, you want to ask a question?
Now he can unmute himself.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute myself a couple of minutes before, but then I had to drop a question in the chat. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful hearing both topics. My question stems from something to EIT Food. Is it also provide tools for young people or people who have ideas which has social entrepreneurial touch in it, and they want to help the society, but they have just an idea and they're looking forward to learn some tools, or like maybe have an idea but want more guidance on it? So Adam, do you guys also help with that?
The easiest answer is yes, we do. Now we need to go through the special, your expectations you need, but all the education programs and also public engagement and insights is focused on ideas at the very early stage, concepts which were not yet proved to be working. So all of the initial ideas, guidance, coaching, and programs at early entrepreneurship. So I would say the seed funding and pre-seed funding, actually, in this case, is supported by EIT Food.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so
Haris,
much.
if you can just go to the eitfood.eu and just review the web page. It's quite complex and sophisticated, but you can find, based on your interest, you will find the answers. Otherwise, I will anyway try to get back with the answers to the questions which were asked before.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There's a question from Isabel Hofman in the Q&A, and she said 10 to 15 years seems very long. Do these innovations last that long?
Well, some of them don't, that's for sure. And some of them, we are living in the fast changing world, and it might be that if innovation is not adapting to consumer needs, to the changing market situation, conditions, and need, I would say demand for this innovation, then they might not succeed on the market long term. But I do believe that if the innovation is viable, is working, and the company or organization which is responsible for that innovation, for this product or solution or service, is adapting to the changing needs, it's the high probability that it will succeed. 10 to 15 years seems long, yes, but this is what most of the researchers are saying. We need at least 12 years. More realistically, it's 15 years to observe the first results, whether it's soil health. If we look at the condition of the soil, improvement, regenerative practices takes very long. When it comes to nutritional habits and improvement, the older we get, the longer it takes to get better. Sometimes we never reverse our health into the 100% healthy state. So it's difficult to say. I put it into one bucket, the carbon and health, but it's just for the sake of this presentation. I wanted to give you the flavor of what we are doing. But I will be really delighted if we can have the full report, so I can present you with the proper presentation and all of the methodology behind.
Okay, thank you. Francois, do you think of a period of 10 to 15 years? Is this a sustainable innovation?
It depends on what we talk, right? It's one case is, I mean, you cannot generalize. And that's the key word of innovation. You cannot generalize anything. Innovation is about uncertainty, right? So, if you talk about some life science businesses, I mean, innovation from the time you can have an idea to the time it is on the market, for instance, it can last 15 years. I mean, it's the same thing. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you do. So
yeah, let's take Tesla, for example. I don't know how long it is on the market already, but I think more than 10 years.
Sorry, what's
Tesla?
Yeah, but is it innovation now? It was innovation was
Yes.
on the market. Can we consider it as innovation right now? It's no longer a startup, right? So it's a big corporation. So, but
I'm just afraid, if I may just chip in, now what to do with the batteries, which are stored after Tesla, after any electrical car. So it's always like sometimes we create something new and the solution is great, but then we need to find out the new solution for how to deal with something which we didn't anticipate. or we didn't foresee before, which might be the next big thing, maybe from the same company, to utilize it,
exactly,
to reuse it, to upcycle that.
Yeah.
Okay, then there was a question from Teresa. Adam, can you comment on the role of internationalization or global supply chains during EIT Food funding decisions?
Supply chains is really difficult one because it depends on the industry, really. In food industry, especially in the big food production, it's never easy because even though we try to make the supply chain as short as possible, so to save on the energy, but also on the cost and freshness and many other aspects, it's super difficult. So this is something which is probably tough question to be answered. If we look at the way avocado fruits are taking the way to Europe and what happened with the production of avocado, we may be surprised. The supply chain is very long and it costs a hell of money, environmental pressure, water usage, and so on and so forth. So improving that might not be ending up with cultivating or growing avocados in Europe, might not be the case. Maybe we should be looking at something else. And same for very strange example, but I've learned about this recently that some of the fruits harvested somewhere else, then they are brought by planes to another place where the labor is cheap. And then they are cut, they are peeled off, cut, and then send it back, which is really something insane if we look at the cost for the environment and for the society in general. But in the bigger terms and bigger picture, so one thing remains the same always. I mean, the closest proximity, and this is how regenerative agriculture was. I mean, everybody is now looking at regenerative practices and saying this is the innovative approach. It was innovative 200, 300, 400 years ago. So we are looking back. We are looking to the solutions which were developed many years ago, and they were not probably developed to change it. Maybe they were the only one accessible that times. So supply chain was very short. They were really serving the community which was living nearby. Nowadays, it's much bigger and much more complicated, especially when you look at the shipments of the products, goods, services. Not an easy one.
Okay, thank you. And then a question for Francois. If money is a tool, how about the innovations that may be really useful but only serve a small group of people and therefore are never considered globally?
Well, can it sustain itself? That's the question. If not, therefore, it's no longer innovation, unfortunately. You will have to find a business model that helps the innovation to sustain itself over time. So yeah, that's really key. That's really key. You cannot just deliver value because you want it. I mean, you have to find the ways, the tools to be able to deliver constantly.
Yeah, we have a guy in the Netherlands. He makes very special watches. He was recently on television. It takes him 3 years to make one watch. And so maybe such a watch cost €250,000. Well, those watches you only make for a very small group of people, but he could have a sustainable business.
Yeah. Because it's sustainable.
Yeah.
So it can deliver its innovation on the market because it's sustainable. But you have to find a business model that sustain itself, basically, which is the case with your watchmaker.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both very much. Now we split up in two groups. And Adam, if you like to leave, that's all fine. Then we have I prepared some questions on the topic of Francois and the topic of Adam, and then let's see what people have to say. We can have a bit more discussions, and Manuela will bring us in the rooms.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello? Is
Oh,
everybody getting back?
yeah.
I don't know if Isabel Gulings was in your group, Francois.
I don't know. I was talking and then I realized I was in another room, so I don't know where they are.
Yeah, we just changed. Isabel,
Okay.
were you with Francois? Manuela, can you unmute everybody? So I don't know who can report
Yeah,
on the
Isabel should
discussion.
be able to talk now.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Yes, I can summarize our discussion, which was very nice. So we had 3 questions were actually addressed to young scientists and innovation. So the first question was, what are key factors about innovation that young entrepreneurs would have to know? And Francois added to that, very easy and very quick, be humble, because the world might not be ready to adopt your solution. So you have to also bring evidence to support your case. You have to illustrate the value and be humble in doing so. And 2 other key factors were practice deep listening. You really need to understand your surroundings and the persons you want to address your innovation to. And thirdly, practice communication skills. Market yourself and your solution is, of course, very important as well. Coming to the second question, which was how to turn a lab idea into a viable business venture successfully. And here again, 3 points. 1, have a multidisciplinary team with a shared vision. 2, sell as fast as you can, even if it's a prototype, but check and get feedback. And 3, think about your business strategy, including your pricing strategy, and don't be fearful of pivoting your ideas, trying new models, and so on. And then last but not least, what are specific skills it needed to become a successful entrepreneur with a scientific background? And here Francois reassured us, and he said, you already have a lot of skills because you don't just trust anybody without any evidence. Keep that. And he mentioned also, as scientists, you're resilient. You go through trial and error, and that's also really important if you innovate. We then added that also that storytelling is really important, and that you need to understand your market on what skills are needed. For example, potentially regulatory aspects are really important as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you had a great discussion in your group. We also had a great discussion in our group. The first question was, in which areas should we primarily try to make impact? We heard the story of Adam talking about CO2, health, and of course also economic. We all agreed that CO2 is really important to reduce CO2 emissions, to have less food waste. We also discussed that there is a link between CO2 and health. We had Sophia from Agricoles in the group, and she said that they try to save CO2, water, they try to promote nature, biodiversity, and especially those latter aspects were not covered by EIT Food. So we thought maybe the water use and the restoration of biodiversity, or you could even say soil quality, is something we need to look into. And then Beatrice mentioned that the current business model for food is driven by, let's say, the food producing companies, and the negative aspects for health, they have to be paid for by the healthcare system. And ideally, we have a system where we are really encouraged to buy healthy food so that we save those costs on the healthcare system. And then there was also the remark that health and biodiversity are strongly related, and that in the sense that when we would grow more of those forgotten crops so that we have a greater variety of food crops that we are producing and consuming, it's better for our health and it is better for nature. The second question was to calculate impact. Is this a short-term activity, or should we also take long-term effects into account? This was addressed by Adam. They calculate the impact over 10, 15, 25 years. And well, we kind of agreed with this because when you talk, for instance, about improving soil quality or improving air quality, well, this cannot be changed or really significantly improved in 1 day or 1 year. So we need this longer term vision. And then Beatrice also mentioned that water is becoming really crucial. And she said, well, the next big war could be about water. And then I shared with her the movie called The Milagro Beanfield War. I like to mention this because it's a really nice movie and it's about water, the shortage of water. So when you are interested, you can look it up. And then the third question was about if there are other organizations similar to EIT Food that also calculate impact. Can we learn from them? And then Beatrice gave the example of her project, which is financed by Interreg. It's a seafood cycle project, I think, if I have it well. And they measure a number of aspects. They have designed a platform to estimate impact, and they use LCA as their support tool. And then she was still talking, but then we were moved to this room, so she could not finish. But I think we had a really nice discussion. I think we can close now. So Francois, thank you very much for your enthusiastic presentation, and I hope you had nice discussions in your
Thank you very much.
In your room. The same for Adam, but he left already, and then all the others for joining in and contributing to the discussion. The video recording will be soon available on the Titan website, so you can look back or you can advise others to take a look and listen in. And then again, thank you for your presence, and then have a nice day and a nice evening, and hope to see you back in the next webinar.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Manuela.